And we've got a whole set of acronyms today on Get a Better Broadcast Podcast and Voice over Voice, or should I say GABBPAVV, because what we're going to be talking about today, see what I did there, IVR, ISDN and ipDTL as well. They're on the way. First of all, we've got inflection, insurance takes, interdental and in the mud. Hello, I'm Peter Stewart. Thank you for the loan of your ears today as our pocket-sized podcasts continue. So inflection. Well, we've spoken an awful lot about inflection. It's really what I'm most interested in when it comes to voice. I'm interested in an awful lot when it comes to voice, about the projection and about the pauses and about the speed, about how your larynx works, about marking up scripts, all sorts of things I'm interested in when it comes to your voice. I'm interested in the scripting, from writing it down to marking it up, mic technique and voice care tips. I'm really interested in how to write and deal with mic fright and phonation and resonation and projection and breathing and reading, but it's the inflection and intonation which is really my number one top topic. And inflection, if you haven't heard about it already, go back and listen to previous episodes. Start at episode 1 and work your way through the lifting and lowering of the pitch of an individual word or different parts of a word to indicate significance. Now, sometimes this can be referred to as cadence as well, also intonation. To be honest, there is a slight difference between all of these, but in general, as far as you and I are concerned in everyday topicality, it's very much that they merge from one to another or are just interchangeable terms. Some people might use colouring or flavour or things like that as well. Lifting, sometimes exaggerate or stress, words which I don't tend to like, incidentally, because if you ask somebody to stress a word, it does give the impression they've got to really push it, almost shout it and give it loads of energy. And usually that's not the case. Usually with inflection, they've just got to lift it slightly rather than stress it. Yeah? Rewind, they've just got to lift it slightly rather than stress it. They've just got to lift it slightly rather than stress it. Yeah, it's a slight colouring. It's very much very careful use of all sorts of things that are going on when you're talking about inflection, and I spent several episodes in the past talking about that, but that's inflection for you. What's an insurance take, Peter? Well, this is when the director wants one more take just in case. Maybe you've got a few minutes left on your recording time in the studio and they say, yeah, can you just run that through again one more time? I just want an insurance take. Is that okay? Of course you're going to say yes, because they are paying you and he who pays the piper calls the tune and all that. So they just want another insurance take. It may be to make sure that they've got another version just in case their equipment hasn't recorded properly. That's less likely to be the case nowadays than it was back in the old days when I started off and everything was on reel, where you couldn't actually necessarily see that something was specifically being recorded. Nowadays, with electronic recordings and DAWs, it's much more easy to see that something is actually being laid down and something is actually being recorded for you to listen to back to later. But usually what they want is a slightly different version. And you can check with them if they ask for an insurance take. Yeah, do you want it exactly the same? Or what should I change? Should I speed up slightly? Can I change my, here's that word again, inflection? Should I do it slightly differently? It may also be a chance for you to do something completely different, something that hasn't been looked at or discussed or decided before on this particular script, on this particular session. And you may decide, I'm just with approval. You may say to them, shall I just go for it? Shall I just be totally out there, push the envelope, blue sky thinking, and other cliches as well? I'm going to be wild, I'm going to be wacky, I'm going to do it in a cartoon voice. I'm going to do an impression of Ronald Reagan merged with Donald Duck, and just see how this comes out in this advert for luxury earrings. No, that would be inappropriate, but you know what I mean. Sometimes it's a chance to do something completely different, and you know what, very occasionally someone will go at the end of it, hold on, have we been looking at this completely wrong? I think you may have something here. If you just turn that down a little bit there and speed it up there and bring in a little bit of what you had in take 1 and read that line as you had in take 27, let's just see what that sounds like. Let's just lay that down. It may just be something that the director of the campaign is actually quite interested in. Haven't thought of that, but that actually, what you've done there, Peter, is pick up on that word and you've turned, let's go for that. Let's see what happens. And you could stumble across something which is really quite magical. You've still got the original takes. Nothing ventured, nothing gained with an insurance take. Now, interdental, or not incidental, but interdental, dental, it's got something to do with the mouth, got something to do with the teeth. Sometimes it's called linguadental as well. Lingua, obviously something to do with language and so on. Well, interdental is the speech sound when the tongue darts through the lips. The tongue darts through the lips. So can you think of some words, some terms, maybe a phrase or two where the tongue darts through the lips? I'm going to give you some thinking time. I should have done that more often over the past 900 episodes, shouldn't I? Yeah. Such a little bit of homework for you there. So what about, so we've got some speech sounds when the tongue darts through the lips. What if I say, theoretically, this third thrush threads theatre throws? Yeah? It's very often used when you're using the words th, the, when your tongue darts through the lips. Now, when I did it then, actually the tongue was through the lips for, several milliseconds, but usually when you're speaking at pace, your tongue is an amazing instrument, isn't it? I know we looked back at this back in the day as well. So interdental, the speech sounds when the tongue darts through the lips. Another one for you, in the mud, or sometimes muddy. What is that terminology? What does that mean? Well, that's a low or distorted volume. It's very muddy. It's not clear. It's muddy. It's muffled, perhaps. That's what that means. ipDTL is Internet Protocol Down the Line. This is when you've got an IP codec, an Internet Protocol codec, a bit of kit running in a web browser used for remote broadcasts in TV and radio and voiceover, and a replacement and compatible with older ISDN audio codecs. So ipDTL is one. You just got to be aware roughly of what it is, not necessarily what it does in case someone is talking to you. Have you got an ipDTL? Shall we do it ipDTL? And here's another one for you, ISDN, Integrated Services Digital Network. So this is a system similar to the newer over the digitalised circuits of the public switch telephone network. And usually, ISDN's being faded out now, essentially, because we just do it over the ordinary phone network, don't you? If you've got a clear feed or something like that, you've got a Riverside, you're doing it over an ordinary phone line because they're really high tech and high quality nowadays. You don't necessarily need special receivers. You've got a plug-in program, or you can download a program like some of those I've just mentioned, which connects you with somebody else. And I do my work for the BBC from home, from my home studio. That is exactly what I do. One more very, very briefly today, just because we've got to keep it under 10 minutes. IVR, interactive voice response, technology that allows phone users to interact with a computer-operated telephone system through the use of voice. So a voiceover artist like you will record, say, movie titles on show and the screening times, ticket availability, and then the caller will interact by responding to voice prompts. You know the kind of thing, and that's the kind of thing which is being taken over very much by an AI voice nowadays, as you've probably heard. IVR. I'm Peter Stewart, back tomorrow with more. From London, I am Peter Stewart.